Good afternoon. 4:30 again. Comes around faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. I can just imagine 12 weeks from now, we will finish the 9 o'clock call and just roll right into the 4:30 call. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen at this point. All right, so before we get started, we do have a couple of things to review, a couple of quick announcements to make, some reminders. But as always, at the end of the day, it's always nice to end our day the way we begin so many of them, with our friend Ellen.
This comes from Penny Davidson in Houston, Mississippi. This is not right at all, she says. Mommy and me adult dance.
Oh.
That is so wrong. It should be Mommy and I. Neil Goldberg in St. Louis, Missouri saw this on the local news. Well, it looks a bit nippy outside. How can someone not know that that's what they're doing? Angela Morando in Staten Island, New York. I saw this in a store and had to take a picture. That is horrible. It's horrible. I mean, to be fair, she's putting herself through preschool, so she's just... Sierra Fry in East Liverpool, Ohio, thought you might find this funny. That's not, I don't see what's wrong with that. Is that the whole picture? Oh. What's wrong with that? It's just a happy cat. If you see a picture that's not quite right, send it to me. We'll be back.
All righty. A happy cat. I just play it. I didn't write it. All righty. So, a couple quick announcements for you. What is happening tomorrow? You may have heard there's something happening tomorrow. What's happening tomorrow at 1 o'clock?
Sales rally.
The
Sales
sales
rally.
rally to end all sales rallies with the most awesome guests. So do be certain that you're on that. Again, our goal is 100% attendance, so let's make sure that we contribute to that. If you have something else scheduled, change it. Is it a listing appointment? Push it to later. Do it on Zoom. All right. So let's make sure that we plug in for the sales rally tomorrow. Lunch will be provided by you in your house prior to the sales rally. So please make sure that you make whatever it is you decide that you want to consume, eat that up, and then be ready for a 1 o'clock start time. And when I say 1 o'clock start time, what I really mean, guys, is be on the Zoom at like 12:50, latest 12:55. Jason Abrams is up first. Jason Abrams will start at 1 o'clock. He is not late. So he will start at 1 o'clock. So plan on being on the Zoom. I will have the Zoom room open by 12:45 so that you can jump in and be ready for Jason at 1 o'clock. We will start with Jason. We'll have a sales rally of about 45 minutes or so in between, and then we will end with Matt Teeter right around 2 o'clock. So do plug in for that. A reminder that our KW Kids Can contest to have either your child or grandchild between the ages of 18 and 28 attend Gary's Quantum Leap for Young Adults Summit on June the 25th and 6th via Zoom. That contest comes to a close 1 week from today. So do have those essays submitted to your MCA. Thank you for those of you who've already submitted. Still another week to get those submissions in. There were some questions about whether or not that session itself would be recorded for people who could not plug in live. And the answer, as I expected, is no. Gary will do that live. It will not it will not be recorded. It might be recorded for him, but it's not a recording that's going to be released. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, do go back and check your email. About a week or so ago, I did release details on that contest. Your 18 to 28-year-old just has to write an essay about leadership based on what I sent out and submit that to your MCA by next Wednesday, the 17th. We will have our esteemed panel of judges read through those essays and choose a winner in each market center to send to Gary. So do watch for that. Also, for those of you who are out there writing business like crazy, please also be submitting your green sheets like crazy. We're starting to see a little bit of a slide on when I'm talking to you guys, the business you're writing is crazy, and yet we're not seeing it, anything of substance get to the market center. So please make sure that as you're going crazy writing all that business, that you're also submitting green sheets, whether you're doing that via the green sheet system or via the commissions tab in command. We accept them both ways, but do make sure that that information is getting to the market center. Remember, you have 3 days from a signed accepted offer, either on the list side or the buy side, to submit all that information to the market center. So please be certain, if you're behind on that, do me a favor, between now and the sales rally tomorrow, just catch up. Maybe go to bed an hour later tonight and just catch up on all that documentation. That is always massively helpful to your leadership team to be able to continue to move ourselves in the direction we need to move to know what's going on. So thank you very, very much for that. So two larger topics I wanted to cover with you this afternoon. The first is open houses in Connecticut. A number of you asked me last week. I mentioned that I would be releasing something over the weekend, which was clearly a lie because I didn't do it. And yet it was, the intent was there, but we wanted to just get a couple of ducks in a row before we actually released the guidelines, which you probably saw head out earlier today. And so do know two things, that A, CTR, your state realtor organization, is still discouraging public anything, public open houses, public broker open houses. They are discouraging them. They are encouraging virtual. They are encouraging us to wait and not relaunch public open houses just yet. We're going to leave it to you. Our official stance on this is we're going to leave it to you and your sellers as to what you think the best path forward to accomplish the goal that the seller has outlined. And just in case you decide to start opening public open houses again, we did release a set of guidelines for you to follow. They're not surprising guidelines. If you've read them, there is nothing earth-shattering in that documentation, except to say that you need to have the approval of your seller. That's not a decision you'll be making for your sellers. If the seller is interested, you could certainly begin the conversation. If the seller is interested in a public open house with all the safety protocols and the process that we outlined for you, then you are certainly free to do that. The state does not prohibit public open houses. CTR discourages them. The state does not prohibit them. So I want you guys to figure out what makes the best sense for you and your clients and start taking action there. I would say that there's an opportunity. If you think about broadcasting public open houses, there's an opportunity for you to do the best you can to make it an appointment-only open house, or at least an appointment or by appointment open house, that where you're open for an hour or you're open for 2 hours, and you're not necessarily just open, right? You could have instructions where they have to text you or call you, and you kind of give them slots. You know, you have a 1 and a 1:15 and a 1:30 and a 1:45. You may find that allows you to control people a little bit better. So play around with that and see if that makes sense to you. Here is the one thing I will go on record as saying. If you do not believe that you personally can control guests at the open house, I would encourage you just not to dive back into them yet. And what I mean by that is if you're afraid to say, I am so sorry, we have a policy of one guest at a time, please have your masks on and your everything else going. and the rest of you, please wait out here. I'll be about 10 minutes, and you're next. You're number 2, and you're number 3. If you're not able to really control that situation, or you feel nervous about that, then I would take a half a step back from hosting one right now, because you need to be able to really control the situation in order to make sure that everyone stays safe. This isn't carte blanche to just open up public open houses and have a free for all. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help the seller, and it certainly doesn't help the general public. So let's be smart and stay safe and follow some guidelines and make sure that everyone is doing their part. And under those circumstances, structured open houses are really not all that different from a busy Saturday afternoon of physical showings at a specific property, right? If you structure it right. So that's our recommendation on that. If you do not have your own listing inventory, you can run a report for either of the market centers and just reach out to a listing agent and see if their seller is interested in having an open house hosted. I see no reason why we still can't cross-pollinate in terms of not necessarily being the listing agent on a property, as long as everyone is willing to follow those guidelines. So that's our official stance today on public open houses. Any questions on that as a strategy or as a path forward? Okay, excellent. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention was the state of New York. You saw earlier that I also released guidelines for doing business in the state of New York. For those of you who are New York licensed, you've really been hamstrung for the past 12 weeks because there's been zero business going on, or at least zero business that you were able to be involved with. I know that I've spoken to a number of you to kind of arrange showings through the back door without realtors, sellers kind of doing some private showings to potential buyers. And I think we actually even sold a house that way in the last couple of weeks. No realtors involved, everyone just kind of doing their thing to try and get some business written. But the good news is, as of yesterday, Westchester County and the Hudson Valley region of New York State is in phase 2 of their reopening plan, which means real estate can come back to life. And what that looks like is very, very similar to what it looks like here in Connecticut and has looked like for the past 11 or 12 weeks. There's nothing earth-shattering about the New York guidelines. All of the physical showing requirements are basically the same. All of the discouragements are basically the same in terms of limiting the number of people and not having kids and not having relatives and one at a time and masks and wipe downs and all that kind of stuff. So again, if you are a New York agent, do look at those guidelines that I released earlier. They come directly from one of the divisions of the state of New York. So dive in and open up those listings. For those of you who have listings in New York that have come off, now's the time to put them back on because showings are now available. Anybody have questions, comments, or concerns about the New York reopening? Excellent. And so one last thing that I want to just mention as it relates to the Connecticut side of things, I still get questions probably a couple a week from people asking, what are our restrictions now in Connecticut? Can we still do this? How do we have inspections? And guys, the answer at this point is really the state is open with protocol restrictions, right? And what that means is from the state is face coverings are required whenever you're out in public and cannot maintain a 6-foot distance, and no gatherings of groups of 10 or more. And so other than that, there's really no additional restrictions that the state puts on what we're doing. If there are certain restrictions that certain companies are still utilizing, for example, someone said to me the other day, is it true that only the inspector can be in the house? Well, no, that's not true any longer. It actually wasn't really true during even the lockdown period. However, some inspectors have taken a stand that if they're going to go into somebody else's house, they'd like the sellers to be out and the buyers not to be there. And so they want to just go through the house on their own. If that doesn't work for you or your buyers, then just hire a different inspector, because there are a lot of inspectors who are not taking that stand and do have the buyers there. Now, there's not a huge posse of people, but the inspector and you as the buyer's agent and the couple who are purchasing, as long as everyone's maintaining distances, that's not prohibited. It's not an issue. But some of you are running into issues with specific companies and their own policies. So just know the difference. Know what is available to you. It's funny because I'm looking at Angela in the bottom left of my screen, and the way your head is tilted, Angela, it looks like you're wearing the country of Brazil like a hat. There you go. So I love your Brazil hat. Any questions on anything else in Connecticut? Anything that's not clear? We're all pretty clear about what we're allowed to do, which is pretty much anything and everything. We just may have to do it in a slightly restricted manner. Yes? Okay, good. So if all of that is 110% clear, I will open it up to any questions or comments that anyone wants to make about anything you're experiencing, any challenges, any successes, anything you wanted to share with your colleagues that might be helpful, the best new place that you found to find new listings. Anything you want to share or ask?
Rick, you said about using the forms, the COVID forms.
Yes.
In the email, could you just touch that again? What was that?
Sure. So I'm going to be specific about the state of Connecticut right now, because New York is entirely the opposite. The state of Connecticut right now, the MLS is maintaining its position that no form can be signed prior to someone going into a house. And let me be clear about that. What they've said is no one can be forced to sign any kind of form before they enter a house. I know a lot of you are still asking that it be done via simple request, and most of you who are asking that it still be done are not getting much pushback. And so if that's important to your seller, my position on that is I believe your seller has a right to ask whatever they want. And until or unless this becomes a larger problem with the MLS, I am more than happy to say to you that you and your seller need to have a conversation. They have a right, and you have every right to ask that it be done. You will have some agents out there who always have to be right and will take that. They will sit and hold their breath and stamp their feet saying, no, 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 you can't do that, right? Many of you have heard those same things. And we don't have to have an argument about who's right on that, right? It's not an argument about who's right. You can certainly say at that point that the seller does request that it be done. Yes, we understand that the MLS has said that showings cannot be denied for that purpose. However, this particular seller, for this particular reason, if you so choose to mention a reason, is requesting that. I wondered if you could just ask the buyers if they would be okay with it, right? Sometimes just a conversation eliminates that, and then everybody gets to have what they want. And when I say everybody, I don't mean me. I mean your sellers and the buyer's agent and the buyers. Somebody said to me on Monday, why are you making such a big deal out of this? Like, yeah, if you really want to know, I'm okay either way, right? I'm okay knowing that for me personally, I think the decision the MLS made is absurd. From a business perspective, I understand the position that we're in, that we're kind of stuck in the middle, trying to do what we think is right and not prevent sales prevention and not go down the sales prevention route as well, right? So I'm okay either way, which is why I've come to you and said, I believe this is a seller's issue, and you as the listing agent in communication with your seller gets to make that choice. If the MLS chooses to continue to disagree with us, I'm okay with that too. Right now, no one seems to be yelling and screaming about anything. So that's my answer, Tiger. It's kind of a non-answer, but that is my answer. Now,
thank you.
You're welcome. In New York, just so we're clear, in New York, it is like a complete 180. In New York, there are 75 different forms that have to be filled out 75 times a day before anybody shows anything. They are required. It's not driven by the seller. It's driven by the MLS and the boards. They are taking a very, very hard stand on that. You don't want to sign it, then don't come in the house. I mean, exactly the opposite stance of what the Smart MLS in Connecticut is taking. We brought that to the Smart MLS's attention, and they ignored us on that as well. So, so understand that depending on which side of the border you're working on, you will have different requirements and different opportunities. So just know the differences there. And for detail about what you need to do on the New York side, go to someone's listing. If you're interested in moving forward on a listing, that information is typically posted there. Comments, questions, concerns about that? Okay, so if there's nothing else going once, Donna.
Well, we have, we just got an interesting announcement for Danbury that I just wanted to share, breaking news. Mayor Mark Boughton just announced that Amazon will be bringing what they call a final mile distribution center to Danbury. So it's not one of the gigantic things. He's thinking that approximately 400 to 500 jobs will be created. So I thought that was interesting. Maybe going into, and I live in Danbury, but just for the last 5 years, maybe there's an old Scholastic site somewhere, and that's what they're thinking about converting into. So that was just announced. And I thought that was kind of a good news for Danbury in the area. Yeah,
that's awesome. There is an old Scholastic site, if I'm not mistaken. I see Marvin nodding his head. Marvin, where is that? Do you know?
Sherman Turnpike? I don't know where Sherman Turnpike is.
Yeah, it's near the little turnaround where you get off the highway.
On exit 8.
Exit 8, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Oh, right. Yeah, so yeah, that's awesome news. Congratulations to Mayor Boughton. That's a win, right? So Northern Fairfield County adding jobs, always a benefit for any of us, right? So be on the lookout and maybe utilize that as something that you are blasting out to attempt to draw sellers to the market, right? Because buyers will be coming to that particular area for that, and pay attention to that. Thank you, Donna, for sharing that. Appreciate it. All right, so as we wrap up, yeah, Karen.
I think the Fed met today, and they have decided to keep the Fed funds rate at close to zero without going to negative rates. What does that mean for us? As consumers, it means that credit cards, auto loans, mortgage rates will remain low. So that's the bright light in all of this.
Woohoo! Yeah, you know what? We'll take any bright light that we can find.
Exactly.
We'll take it. I love it. So I wanted to finish today by playing you just a short, I think it's 3.5 minutes or 3:45 video. And it's kind of self-explanatory. You'll hear more about it tomorrow at 1 o'clock when you're all tuned into the sales rally regarding income versus expense, right? And the whole point of what Grant Cardone is going to talk to you about right now is that most of you do not have an expense issue in your world. You're not spending too much money. You don't have too much debt. Most of you don't make enough money, right? And so it's an income issue. And I want to play this for you and set the stage for another conversation tomorrow during our sales rally, because I still believe that the people who are listening to me right now have the biggest and best opportunity for massive income that exists locally. Your income only stops when you decide it stops, right? And so why put a limit on it? And it's just a matter of figuring out the steps in between to drive you to a place that you only sometimes think is possible in your dreams, right? So I want you to get the mindset from Grant, and then show up tomorrow at 1 o'clock for the sales rally for some additional information, both from Matt Teeter, from Jason Abrams, from your team leaders, from me, We're going to really, really push this point because right now we have a massive opportunity to take advantage of the massive opportunity that was laid at our feet. The question is, are we going to actually pick up that opportunity and run with it, or are we going to step over it and let somebody else pick it up? So to finish the day, here's Grant Cardone. We will not come back after this, so as soon as this is done, I wish you an absolute beautiful night, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
It is the entrepreneur, not government, not politicians, that will save the fabric, the households in this country. If you've ever looked up the word economics 800 years ago was really talking about how to manage a household. This is the problem with this country. The information, the education, what they have been told. 300 million people in the wealthiest country on the planet. 76% of everyone you know lives paycheck to paycheck. Did you know that? 7.6 people out of every 10 people you know, 10 people that you're a family member with are living paycheck to paycheck in the richest country on the planet. How can that be? Are they all stupid? Can't be that. Or were they made stupid? Or do they have the wrong information or the wrong knowledge? Is it possible that salespeople, for instance, over 80% of salespeople don't hit a target? Why? Are they stupid? I don't think so. You know what I think? I think they have the wrong information. I think the way we sold people, the way we educated people years ago is the problem. Look, if you don't have money in your bank account, it is not because you spent too much, and it is not because of debt. My mother is struggling with insurance money. She's trying to get 3 boys through school and take care of 2 daughters, right? That's what most of America is trying. They're trying to manage everything. Oh, I'm trying to get it done. I got to clip the coupons. I got to save my money, because she didn't know how to bring money in. Nobody has a debt problem, and nobody has a spending problem. They got an income problem. America has an income problem. Look, as long as you're a good person, money will solve a lot of problems. It might not make you happy, but this ain't the happy convention. How many of you need more money? And there's nothing wrong with money, particularly if you have a noble product. In fact, if you have a noble product and a noble service, you should be paid money. Unless something's wrong with you. And maybe something is wrong with you. Is there a possibility that there's something wrong with you? That the people that raised you in the schools you went to gave you knowledge that was incorrect. How many of you were taught this? Money doesn't grow on trees. But they didn't tell you where it came from. Did they tell you where it came from? My daddy's like, money don't grow on trees. But where did it come from? Look, we print more money in this country than we plant trees. There's no shortage of money except in your mind. That's why you set targets based on what other people. The middle class in America does not exist anymore, folks. You can call it the middle. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Politicians call it the middle class because if they didn't say there was a middle class, there would be civil unrest. This is the reality in this country, okay? My mom was brought up to clip coupons, save money, protect the money, conserve. Sooner or later, you run out of money. Would you agree? And if you don't run out of money, you end up being very old. How many of you know that guy? He dies. He's your uncle. He died at 89, and you found out he had a $1.2 million. And his whole life, he acted like a miser. He was putting it away. That's not freedom. That's a slave. That's $1 million slave. Spend your entire life. Why? Because he didn't want to create income, so he tried to conserve it.
Have a great night.